This is a treatment plan for a single unit post-extraction upper second bicuspid tooth number 13. After rendering the dichoms and rendering the bone mesh and the tooth mesh right here and cleaning up all the scatter, we were able to take a closer look at the visual position of tooth number 13. There looks like there's plenty of bone there for the implant placement, and again, looking at the bone view with the cleanup of the scatter that is available, we could see that there's plenty of bone height away from the maxillary sinus on that side. Looking at the surface scan, we were able to digitize the impression, the maxillary impression in this case right here, which shows a pretty good impression of the area right there. Then we were able to produce the positive from the negative, which is the maxillary arch right here. And then we did the same thing for the mandible, and looking at the bite view of the maxillary and the mandible, it looks like right here we have a pretty good interarch distance for a nice placement of tooth number 13 for this case. In this module, we loaded the teeth arch right here, and we were able to segment tooth number 4 right here, as you can see, and tooth number 12 as well. And on top of it, of course, we were able to segment the roots as well. And by segmenting the roots, we will be able to actually clone tooth number 14 and mirror it, and tooth number 4 and mirror it and place it on tooth number 13 position. I will proceed and show the root segmentation next. Once we segment the roots in this module, with the new release of the software, we'll be able to view various views that will enable us to look at several things. For example, this is a high skin projection that will enable us to visually take a good look at the position of the roots and so on. And here we can take away the tissue or keep the tissue and look at the adjacent roots. Point made here, I want to point your attention, the tooth number 12 is an endodontically treated tooth in there, and it looks like there may be an abscess there that we need to take a closer look at as we continue and proceed with the treatment. This is a highlight of the bone as well, a high projection of the bone, and as we move forward we can take a closer look at the high highlight projection of the muscles as well. And again, all these views give us a pretty good idea of what we're looking at. These are the two clinical crowns that were basically segmented, and of course the whole idea is to be able to take tooth number 4 and be able to mirror image it with its clinical crown and roots onto tooth number 13 position. So this module shows the reverse engineering process of cloning or mirror imaging tooth number 13, and as you can see, the first step is to establish the bite and the occlusion, and then the second step is to establish the position of tooth number 4 and the roots as well that will be cloned and placed in tooth number 13 position. As you can see here, we can remove the roots, and as you can see, we were able to take tooth number 4 and mirror image it and clone it into tooth number 13 position. Now once we are able to do that, we can double click on that tooth, put the occlusion in place with the mandible, and take a closer look and adjust the position of the load vector that is in there. Let's take a closer look at the position of the load vector where the implant is going to be loaded once it goes into function with the opposing mandible in the bite slicer. So looking at the bite slicer now, where we could closely evaluate the load vector and then analyze the load vector, looking at it right here again, based on the occlusion on this side, which is the occlusion of the mandible with the maxillary there when it goes into centric. As you could see, this is the load that it goes into that tooth where we're going to place the implant. The system calculated on this side the position of the load that's going to load the bone right here, and as you could see, this is going to be right smack into the center of the bone. Now the system will automatically snap that implant into the load vector position and position the implant in the maximum possible place within the bone. So let me proceed and go to the implant planning next. So now we're going to go ahead and scan the root of tooth number 4 that we cloned into tooth number 13 position and determine the actual emergence profile of the final healing abutment and final abutment that we're going to put in there. So looking at it, we're going to set up the actual scan for the beginning slice that we need here, and then we're going to move it up until we reach the the next position that we desire. It's going to be all the way up about 3 to 4 millimeters right there. We're going to set this as the ending position that we need, and we will tell it to go ahead and generate that volume, and this is going to be the volume that will be generated for the emergence profile of the final abutment for the implant that will be placed in tooth number 13 position. Of course, if we're looking at it closely right down here in the 3D view, if I remove the root segment, we will be able to see the position of that implant healing abutment or final abutment emergence profile in there. Looking at the 3D view right here, this will be representing of the shape of the final abutment that will be placed into the implant of tooth number 13 as well. So I will conclude now by moving to the final step in the process, which is implant planning. In the implant planning module now, we have done all the segmentation that's possible and snapped that implant into place as well automatically based on the load vector. Here I'm going to start peeling off the layer. I'm going to peel off the bone layer. I'm going to peel off the tissue layer, and now here is the implant that the system snapped automatically onto tooth number 13 position. If we double click on that implant, we can take a closer look on the right side here where that implant is going to be relative to the bone and the tooth and to the buccal cusp loading of the opposing tooth. It will be a 4.3 by 13 millimeter implant, and it will be perfectly placed in there. And if I put the bone back in again, and the roots and the surgical guide with the teeth, this is the teeth that we reverse engineered, and this is the surgical guide in there, and the surgical guide is going to be snapping onto the actual tissue and bone that is in there. And more importantly, if I were to peel this off again one more time, I'm going to peel off the tissue and peel off the bone. More importantly, I'm going to zoom in very quickly on the endodontically treated tooth number 12, and you can see that there's a huge apical radiolucency around tooth number 12 right here around this implant, around this root canal area. So I want to take a closer look at this. I want to make sure that you guys are evaluating this at the time. Take a PA to follow up on it. So anyway, this will conclude the treatment plan for this case with the implant to be placed in tooth number 13, a 4.3 by 13 millimeter implant in that position. So the final 3D viewer of the case with all the segmentation that we've done to get to the final position. This is the opposing arch that we had, the mandible on and off right there. I'm going to remove it, peel it off. I'm going to remove the roots that are in there as well. I'm going to remove the upper arch as well. I'm going to remove the tissue, and I'm going to remove the bone to take a closer look at the final implant that was placed, a 4.3 by 13. I'm going to double click on it. And if I were to now go to the spinner view and run the spinner view around that implant in there and take a closer look at the cross arch slicer that we have in there, we can take a closer look at it. This is the implant that we have relative to the bone, relative to the surgical guide. If I were to quickly remove the volume view and look at it again one more time, this is the implant that we have that's going to go relative to the position of the surgical guide that will snap on. And now if I were to quickly just start the spinner slice to verify it, this will give me, I'll slow it down just a little bit to make sure that we can take a closer look at it. Alright, now I'm gonna rotate it one more time, put the volume view in again so you can see it closer. And now I'm going to run the spinner view one more time and start the spinner view so you can see the adjacent mesial distal position of the roots that are close to this implant in there to verify its position mesial distally and buccal lingually as well. So now we're getting close to that view with the mesial distal view. Notice that implant is smack in the middle of the site. I'll double click to stop it. Here it is. And if I were to have it continue one more time, we can start over, and we're going to look at it buccal lingually as well now as we rotate closer to the other side buccal lingually as well. Rotating this view here, you could see that mesial distally we have an excellent position on that implant on tooth number 13. So this should conclude the treatment plan of this tooth number 13. with all the various modules that we have in the step-by-step approach on bioengineering and implant, which is a root form, an emergence profile of the abutment, and the final prosthetics top-down analysis of the entire case before we actually start.